I've seen The Mummy starring Tom Cruise. It's been out a couple of weeks now. Went to see it with my wife. We were both looking forward to seeing it because it had some good trailers and there haven't been a lot of spoilers or discussion around the film prior to it coming out. It's not the awful film everyone makes it out to be. Everyone seems to keep slating it now as this awful, terrible Tom Cruise film. It's not awful, it's just not great. I had to check when I left the cinema as to what rating it was because I thought it was a PG or a 12 at the least watching it, but it's actually a 15, and you can tell that when you're watching it because you do think, oh, some of these scenes are quite strong. But I'll get onto that in a minute. The plot itself is Tom Cruise is a chap from the military. He does sort of recon missions, so he and his colleague are out on their own quite a lot. They're in the desert, they're stealing treasures and antiquities on the side. They're all sort of jokey, fun types. And then they stumble upon the tomb of the mummy, who's a female mummy in this instance. She's played by the same lady that played the baddie in The Kingsman, the lady with the prosthetic legs. They end up getting taken away with the mummy to a site in London. On the way, the mummy's powers break loose. Tom Cruise's friend gets possessed, killed and then brought back to life, I suppose is better, but maybe possessed. You're not quite sure, that's the trouble. And the plane crashes. Tom Cruise survives somehow, and it turns out that he's been chosen by the mummy to be possessed by a god. And that's the trouble with the film, it's trying to juggle too many things. In one hand you've got Tom Cruise with his main plot line of being the chosen one and trying to stop the mummy coming after him, and there's no reason for him to be the chosen one either, really. Anyone could fulfill the role. Then you've got his friend who's torn straight from American Werewolf in London, where he's only seen by Tom Cruise, and well, it's just, if you've seen American Werewolf from London, it is just that. They have taken it verbatim from that and stapled it into the film. And then you've got this other side plot where they're trying to build this dark universe with the female lead and Russell Crowe running this organisation that deals with monsters and supernatural things in their world. That could have all just been pushed to the side. They didn't need to have that at all. Russell Crowe looks like he's having a good time, but like they say, if someone's having a good time making a film, generally it means it's going to be bad, and his bits were bad. He plays Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and as Dr. Jekyll he's not very good, and as Mr. Hyde he's just like a pantomime villain, and he puts on this Dick Van Dyke accent, and you know he can do a better accent than that. And the special effects aren't very good either, they're just sort of CGI veins and a bit of discoloration. And it's just awful and pointless and a needless side story. The only thing that comes out of him turning into Mr. Hyde is that the book from the Brendan Fraser Mummy films, The Book of the Dead, falls down as a little nod to them. That's about it. The film ends, you don't necessarily expect it to. Obviously the mummy gets defeated, but Tom Cruise then ends up as the mummy, which is a nice twist and I wasn't expecting it. So he's a sort of, is he good, is he bad? He's trying to control his dark side, and for some reason in the last shot he's got rags on his hand like a mummy, even though he was never wrapped up in any rags, and has the powers of a god by the end of it. Bit weird, but okay, that's creative. Yeah, the main problem with the film is that it's got a really good horror film and then a sort of happy-go-lucky Tom Cruise film like, say, Night and Day, and they just smushed them both together, and there's been no real thought as to how they're going to mix them up. There's bits in the film where you think, oh, this is getting quite good for a horror film, and then they just cut it, and you can tell because the cuts are straight across it. You almost feel jarred by them changing pace to the sort of happy-go-lucky film straight away, whereas if they just stuck to having the straight, dark, proper horror film with the mummy crawling along floors and going around corridors and a bit more gore, then it would still qualify for the rating it got in the end anyway. They'd have set themselves up for having a legitimised horror universe where people will think going into other films such as The Creature from the Black Lagoon, Jekyll and Hyde, any Dracula films or Frankenstein films they're going to make, that these are going to be legitimate adult horror films, or at least teenager horror films with levels of violence, gore and horror that people don't necessarily get anymore with mainstream films. And they could have played it like that, but it's almost as if the studio said no, we've got to keep some happy-go-lucky element in, and it just doesn't work. A lot of the scenes you could take out all the happy-go-lucky bits and the cocky jokes, and you could just play it with Tom Cruise doing a very good job in a horror setting and leave it at that. Yeah, that's the only bit that disappointed me. My wife really liked it, so you know, I can't speak for everyone, but I like horror films and I like sort of a straight horror film, and I think there's a missed opportunity with The Mummy. It's certainly the kind of film that you could watch on a Sunday afternoon if it was on streaming and you wouldn't feel aggrieved at having watched it, but otherwise I don't think it's worth £20 to go to the cinema to go and see. If you think any different, let me know.